Well, I made this thing and it works in Second Life. I don't know how many people will understand how fabulous this is. These bones are parented to these small anchors here. The size of these gives a certain amount of articulation. The longer it seems, the better. These are rather large, 21, 22 meters. And the other ones being small is just as important as these being large. 19 and a half. These separate the bone chains. First is an arm that goes all the way from the middle finger tip to the collarbone. And you can get away with doing that because this single chain can be rotation animated. But now when you add an additional chain and tack it onto that, the root of that chain must be location animated in order to follow a fake hierarchy. But you can't do that in Second Life if your bones are further away, being animated further away than 5 meters from the pelvis. So I've created this rig structure, this fulcrum, to translate the location data into rotation data for use with Second Life. And so this, with its parent, generates rotation data for the added bone, giving the results we expect or we want. And this is a second chain. I did this for a test, make sure it would work, and it does. I'm going to do this again, starting over, and I'm going to use 30 bones and make it roughly 30 meters. And 30 bones seems to be the max we can use because of the chains that we can link together. There is no more that we can use. And you'll see the result of that here. This is 30 plus meters. And it was a prototype proof of concept. And it works. So I'm going to start over. I think I'll start with the mesh. I'll make a duplicate of the mesh. Shift D, and I'll move that to a new collection. I'll call it working. And I will hide everything else. And this one I'm going to remove all the junk from it. The groups and the armature. And we're left with just a mesh. That's got a good amount of detail. And I guess this is all the transforms have been applied. Apply all transforms. No, I guess not. It is now. We're gonna need well, we're gonna need 30 bones. So let's generate 30 bones using our rig generator. Go over to shapeshifter, I believe. Simulation. Dynamics. Enable path. 30 bones. Action. I'm going to pick one portion. The head will be over here, so I'm going to pick the head first. You can increase the size of that thing to see it better. And I'm going to pick the end here. And this should place 30 bones once I say add bones. And that's all we need it for. I'll say done. And make sure that the mesh doesn't have any vertex groups. It does. I'm just going to remove all the... Well, I don't have to, right? Will this bend? I do need one more bone. I need two. I need the pelvis bone, which we'll call... This will be the pelvis. Yeah, that's fine. Just leave it that way. And I need an IK bone, which will come out of here. And E for extrude, and just slide that out, make that non-deformable. Yeah, come on, just call it IK. Of course I want to move this entire rig down a little bit, right? So I'll just go into, I'll hit A to edit all the bones. I don't want this one, so shift click on that, and then I can get a side view here, flip it around once, and I can see that this goes to the center. I have my snap on there. That's good. Let's put an IK on that end bone. I'll select it, and I'm going to turn on my hotkey thingy so you can see what I'm clicking on. This is for bone constraints. This is for object constraints. So we want this one here. IK, and it's 30 bones, but we might need 31 or 29. I don't know. Let's see. Chain length. Of course, I want to pick the. I gotta think what I'm doing wrong here. What in the world am I doing wrong? I added IK, pick the actor. I think they're not parented, that's why. I forgot to click parent. Well, I'll have to manually parent them. Next time you, well, I think I can do it right here. Parent objects. I think I was supposed to parent this here. Oh, when you created them, that was supposed to be enabled. I'll have to do it over. But I think now this is a child of the actor. That's fine. I'll just do this over. I'll just parent them one by one. It's not exactly a bad skill to learn. I'll isolate this so I can do it. Make sure that this is a parent of this root bone, and it's not a parent of anything. So Control P for each one, keep offset, keep doing that right down the line. I have to do this for each bone, and you'll see that it's parent. Did you see those two lines? Here, Control P, Control P. If I had enabled that button before I generated the bones, it would have done this for me. That's fine. Just get it done. Then we'll make sure. Oh boy. Not enjoying this. Alright, now I want to test to make sure that each one is parented. I don't want that connected. Bone disconnected. So I gotta make sure that these two lines meet its counterparts there, not somewhere else. If you see it, the line goes somewhere way to left or right, you know it's parented wrong. So just test all these real quick. So I'm just selecting it, hitting the G key. Well, I'm using my gamepad, lifting it a little bit with my mouse, and then right-clicking to cancel the action. Okay, now that we have our scene rig, we're ready for the next step. Let's just save this for now. I'm going to rename these bones, but I'm going to pause this video. Just do the first couple. This is going to be like 30, right? T1. T2. And I'll just go on down the line. I'm going to call this root. No, it's already root. And I'll be back after they're all done. Actually, I've changed my mind. I'm gonna name it A1 to 7 because that's what I'm going to be doing with these. Now, what I would prefer to do is take the first 7 bones and put them in a bone group. But my mapper is going to destroy the bone groups. I'm going to reprogram that so it doesn't do that. But until then, I'm going to name these bones in a way that will identify what they're going to be used for, so I can segment the anchors, the fulcrums. And this is going to be A1 to A7. And then I'll do the remainder in correspondence with the segments of the differing bone chains I'm going to use. Okay, so I finished the first chain with A7, and the next chain will be 5 bones, but we're still using the arm bones. The first chain will be from the arm bones, but I need 2 bones for an anchor. So each chain loses 2 bones of functionality, but that's for the fulcrum. So this is going to be B1 to B5 because I lose 2 bones. And I'll do that off the video. Alright, now I have 5 bones for each leg and 5 bones for each wing. That leaves us with 3 bones for each one because we have, like I said, we have to give up 2 bones for the fulcrum. So I'm going to do C1 to 5, and I'll do the same thing with D1 to 5. So we have legs, wings, and hinds all with a chain length of 5. So they're all going to be 3s. And so the next 2 I can do are 3s. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. I don't know what that's doing there. Something happened. I should have 30 bones, right? This should use up the entire spectrum. But it's not. Bones are 30 bones, right? So I have 7 here, maybe A1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then I got B1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then C1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then D1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then E1, E1, E2, E3, F1, F2, F3. I miscounted somewhere. G1 and G2. I'll have to go figure it out what I did. And I found it. I put a 4 in here after the C3. It's not supposed to be D1. There's already a D1. So wait a minute, why is there a 5? Yeah, I shouldn't have done a 5. Hey, I don't have any more of those bones. Yeah, that messed it up. So D1, 2, 3, 4. Why would I do 5? That's wrong. Those are all wrong. I have to change these so I can rename the other ones properly. Just name it to anything. So it doesn't. Alright, so this should name to D1 now. I need D1 to 3. I don't know what I was thinking. So I can identify the areas easier. A, B, C, D, E. So I have E1 now. Well, yeah, that's going to screw up. I'll just go backwards here. Just put something in there, right? Yeah, I'll just put a 5 in each one so I can rename them. Goofed up. Now that the names of the bones aren't important, except for, they have to be unique, and There's no getting around that. Blender will correct it if it's not unique. But they will give us a reference so that I can locate them when I'm doing the work. So this is supposed to be E1. E2 and E3. I only have chains of 3 at this point, so they should all be 3. And I'll finish up and be back. And then the last is H3. Then I'll be able to see what I'm doing. And I want to turn on the display of these names for that purpose later on. Each section needs a control object, which will be the IK source. So for the first chain, and I don't need it in the very first chain. The second chain that is location transformed needs to be inverted to rotation transforms, and that's why I need these fulcrums. I'm going to go over to the snap mapper and start doing the work. Action here. I'll hide the mesh. I know that the first one is a bone chain of 7. I can just go right to the 7 mark here. Pick an arm. Usually this one I use to start with. Tell it it's a chain of 7 and fill it. The second one is a chain of 5 using the other arm. And you can see this is the end, because I need the last 2 bones to be the fulcrum. So I drop that down to 5. Fill. The rest of these are going to be 3s, so I can put this to 3 and start doing my work for those. I'll start with the legs, since the legs are visible here. Go to 3. I'm going to pop this off here. I'll show you something. Well, I mean, I can do it this way, can't I? No, I'm gonna do it differently. I'm gonna pop this thing off here. Use it as a sort of reference. With the toe bone, I'll start with the toe bone. That's toe, right? Yeah. And over here, I have C3 and fill. I'll get the next toe bone, D3 and fill. And then we have the hinds and the wings, so we have to show those bones now. So show all bones. And the wing attachment bone is actually defined as an end bone here, so we're able to use it. 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we have a chain of 3, and we're using the last 2 bones as the fulcrum. So this one here and that end bone, and fill it. Same thing with the if. Use that end bone here and fill it. And G3 will go down to the hinds. And again, these have an attachment bone that happens to be right at the end, so we can use it. And that leads us up to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the last two bones are used as the fulcrum, so we can gain a 3 here. And then the very last one, right there, fill. So there we have it, and I'm gonna save this. I can reset my stage here. Actually, yeah, I'm gonna reset my stage. I'm gonna build my other bones for the fulcrum. Then I'm gonna come back and map those bones. What I'm going to do is just find out how many fulcrum bones I need. I need 2 fulcrum bones per segment after the first chain. So there are, we know we went to A7. So 1, because I see a B3 here. And I'm just going to go into pose modes, edit mode. I'll see them better. So B3 means 2 bones. So 2. Why do I have a 4 and a 5? Oh, no. That's because it's the other arm. It's the other longest length. So for B5, for every end of the chain, I need 2 fulcrum bones. So that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 14. I need 16 fulcrum bones, okay? That'll be 16 fulcrum bones and 8 control objects. So let's just make 16 fulcrum bones. So I will just duplicate the A bone, Shift D, bring it up, and I'll just call it something F1, right? F, because then the rest of them will probably default to 2 and 3 and yada yada. Shift D. Yeah. So we need 16 of these. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to just place this someplace where I think it makes more sense. And rotate this. Bring it down here. I want to put my snaps on. I want to deparent this. I don't want that parented. I don't want any of these parented to the root. It probably won't cause a problem, but I don't want them to move as a result of the root moving, if that should happen. I'll put my snaps on and call it vertex, and I will snap the head of this bone to the other head. Nope, not that direction, this direction, just to get the same height as the root bone, because that height isn't bad, and I'll make it just a little bit longer to identify them as a little differently. And let's see if we even this out. If I make it 1 meter, that's fine. 1 meter is fine. I know I need 16 of these. I think there's a duplicate thing we can do, how many you need, but I don't know how to use that. So I'm going to just do it by hand, and I'll start the video again after I'm done. I'll put these relatively close together because they don't really need to be far apart. They can actually be in the same spot, but we want to have access to them, so we'll do it that way. And 16. Alright, we have our base fulcrum bones. Actually, that was silly because they're not all going to be here. 8 of them are going to be here, and 8 of them are going to be over here. So 8 of them are going to be base, so I'll rename to B1 to 8. That was silly. So I just know that because I only need 8 of them, right? I've got 8 here, right? Bones 8. I'm going to rename these ones. I'll rename these. I'll keep these. Not rename these to one. I'm going to rename the other ones to base. So it's going to be B instead. B1, and I'll be right back. And 7 and 8. And I'm going to actually I'm just going to delete these. It'll be easy to do it this way. Shift D, right? Yeah. And these will be no, it wasn't easier. I want that to be 1. Oakley dokley. 2. F2. I tried to save myself some time. I'll be back when these are named. 3. I need a dot in there. And 7. And 8. F. And these do need to be parented. So click, shift click, control P, keep upset for now. Okay. You can see the usefulness of naming these bones properly before I do any serious work, so I can find what I'm doing. And here's the first example where I'm parenting these bones, and they're even lined right up for me, so visually I can find their supposed parent without any problem. And we'll go to the next step. Okay, I'm going to move these in pairs to where they belong. They're not going to stay there, but they will indicate what I'm using them for, so that when I go to map them, I can find them easily. I know that the first, well, let's just move them all over, along with our, take them for the ride here. I know we have A up to 7. Our first anchor is going to be on B1. So I'll leave those on B1. I'm going to deselect them, shift click. Go over to C1. Leave those behind. D1. And I will adjust their locations afterwards. But for now, it's easier to map this way. And the last one here, which we don't need. Interesting. We don't need these. Why don't we need these? I'm not confused by the addition of a spare. I just added one too many. Which we can get rid of, right? Let's just make sure we didn't skip something important. We have 7, B1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. C. Maybe visually this spaced out properly. We can, yeah, I think I can delete these. Let's go map those. Action. I need to show all bones. Alright, we have our reference over here I can refer to. And we know that we started with the right arm. We can find out what we're using by just clicking on the bone and looking in here. And you'll see M collar, right? So we know it's the arm chain we're using, and we just need the last two bones. So I'm not going to show, I'm going to restore the bone view because I know I can see better this way. I've got that bone, and that will tie with the F1 fulcrum and then the base. So map these bones. Now you can't, can we do a chain? Yeah, we can do a chain of 2. That'll work. And then moving on here, if I click this, I can tell what chain we used. And we used the right leg, so I'll pick the end bone and the end bone on the right leg and fill. And this is probably the other leg, right? Yeah, so select this and the end bone on that other leg and fill that. What do we use next? Since there's no red bone in there, I know I have to show all bones. We use the wing, so it's the right side. So this will be the end bone of the wing that's left, and that is the end bone we're looking for the target, and fill it with 2 bones. And I'm expecting this to be the wing as well. Yep. Click our end bone here. Find our wing. What is this over here? Oh, we don't need that. Fill with 2. We can use these child bones of the wing for some interesting effects on our mesh later on, but for now we're just going to map this so you can see what happens. And I'm going to show you what happens if we don't use these fulcrums before I actually use them, because it might be a little confusing why we need to go through this. Okay, so this is the hind bone, and we started with the right, so we have 2 more bones on the hind on the right. Fill those, and of course that would be the next one, and then the last. Alright, let me reset the stage. I am not going to need this window anymore. I'm going to set all these extraneous bones to non-deformable so that I can make sure that they don't interfere with anything just yet. So pick these. Now it'll be easier to marquee select these from this side. Just do that. That's a pain, huh? Yeah, because they're embedded. Darn it. Maybe it'll still work. Nope, wait a minute. No, it didn't work. Alt key. Now those are non-deform. Good. Also this one has to be non-deform. And the root is deformable. I would make that non-deform to begin with if I was doing my initial skinning. I don't know where I put my mesh though. Oh, I have to unhide the mesh. Here it is. As I recall, the mesh was skinned. I don't know if it is now. And we won't know until we animate the item, right? Or at least test the IK. There's too many bones in the chain, I think. Or maybe not enough, no, maybe too many. I don't know what's going on there. I'm going to test it and come back. Alright, I did a dumb target its own rig. Alright, so I'll just do an animation here. And I think I want to get these bones out of the way first, so I can marquee select the items that I need. Pull these down, pull the other ones up. Way up. I'll go higher. So there's plenty of room to animate. I'm gonna show what happens when I don't use these fulcrums. The chain length in Second Life will be made up of various disparate chains, which will require location data to place them in the proper rotational areas, because there's no, I'm not using a sane hierarchy, and Second Life doesn't allow us to upload a rig. So if I try to do this with a long item, something further than 5 meters from the avatar pelvis, it will collapse the whole thing, the mesh and everything. So I'll show what happens. I'm going to animate this first. There's a procedure to do this without using Bento Buddy. You can location and rotation key this, and you should, but the rest of the bones should not be location keyed. You cannot export location data from these bones, but there are different measures to take. During the animation exporter, you can disable location animations from the pelvis and the other bones. This is usually disabled. This is usually not pushed in. But you don't want to do that anyway, because you want to see what's actually going on without the use of location data. So I made my first key, I think. Maybe not. There's another way to do this more conveniently. Go ahead and put the location rotation so that you can key this when you need to. And of course you can just hit the I key instead. Then you can select your other bones, and under animation, enable posing library, hit rotation. It will key a rotation key on that. And when you fold this up, you have to do this over here. Well, actually, we don't want that. Let me undo that. Select all, Alt R and Alt G. I want to put this back where it belongs. Let me put the key back in here where it belongs. Lock rot. And I have to advance the time slider. Duh. Then I will forward my animation, deposit the lock rock key for that. That does not get sent to Second Life, so that's why we're doing this, because that the location of this and the rotation will create this inverse kinematics. And I select the rest of the bones. I could just select everything and unselect that and click rotation, and now we have a full animation. Now I can A to select everything and just marquee select something over here, control D, bring this to 100, and my animation will loop back. Now I'm going to find my mesh. Why does it look like my something's off? Alt, bring this back here. Oh yeah, okay. So my mesh is not skinned, it seems. Let's now remember that I disabled deform on all these bones so that I can skin this. Shift click and control P, and with automatic weights. Now this should not have any of the extraneous bones in the map. It should just have the ones that we need. It should not have root. Oh, it does have these other ones in there. So I'm just gonna remove all the maps here and do it again. Delete all bone groups and shift click control P with empty weight automatic weights, and that should deform with it. Now I'm going to export this mesh using the mapped mesh exporter. And then I'm going to retarget this animation, but I'm going to do this differently than I used to do in the retargeter. I'm going to use bone control and snap bones, because I'm going to use this, I'm going to reuse this rig. This generates a compatible Second Life rig, and if I choose it, I can export my animation from it. And you'll see why I'm using this later, because I can keep this in the scene and it won't vanish when I go and retarget. There's no danger of losing it. If I don't want it, I can just hit delete and it's gone, and there's no leftovers behind. Animation and export features. We only want 100 frames here. We'll have to input the frames manually because we're not using the retargeter, which is no big deal. Export and disable location animations. There isn't any location data on the animated bones that are being exported, so I don't need this, but it's good to keep it on, which disables this export of this information, just in case you don't go crazy trying to figure out what happened. Right now I have both my parts, my mesh and my animation. Let's go see what it looks like. So this is what it's supposed to look like. At least one curl of it, like coming up like that. That's an old one. So let me just start over. That's the one that actually works and has the fulcrum. Create this. I'll put my animation script in it, and I'll upload my animation. Drop it in, and my mesh. You can't see it because it's tilted. It's not faced. You have to ignore what's in there, but because it's kind of dramatic, it does indicate to me that it's not going to work. Link. Enable the Animesh. I'll drag copy that and see what happens. You can see that the location data is goofing with the entire thing. Because we only exported rotation data, it's not collapsing. It's just rotating like we told it to, but there's no way to follow the hierarchy. If we add location data necessary to achieve our goal, I'll show you what happens. It just crumbles. Any bone that is location animated should be collapsed. I don't know why I didn't do a full collapse here, but obviously that's not where we're going with this, right? Alright, so I'll reset this back to where it was. Disable location for pelvis and other bones. Alright, we have an animation we want to get into Second Life. So the way to do that is we have to invert the location data into rotational data. So I'm going to place my anchors over here. Actually, I'm going to map these. Did I already map them? No, I don't think I mapped them. Did I map them? Actually, I did, didn't I? Yes, I did. I'm going to bring these down. That's the wrong. This is the wrong armature. I'll bring these down closer to my item. Same thing with these. I'll bring them up. For each fulcrum, I need a control object. The object itself will be transformed, married to its target bone, and the fulcrum bone will be IK married to the object itself. Now for this to work, these bones have to be flipped. I can just do that. These can stay the way they are. Actually, those could have gone upside down, but this is the way I've been doing it. To bring these closer together, can I scale them on the y-axis? No, that doesn't work. So we'll just slide these over. We don't have to work with these anymore. But we do have to work with these ones here. Presuming that this is in a straight line, and knowing that the tail of this bone has to touch its target or be in the same location as the target. I will select all the tail targets and vertically snap them to any one of these sections. And now that I know that they're not in the exact location I need them to be, so I'm going to horizontally snap them to exactly where I need them to be, which is right there. I don't know if they're in the exact locations. I'm going to make sure they are. Every tail of the chain, except for the first one, needs to have a control object associated with it. So let's make one, add a mesh, a cube. Go to the cube. I'm going to subdivide this to make it prettier. And I'm going to give it, I'm just going to apply that. If I go into edit mode, I don't have to worry about applying the scale to this. And I'll make it just big enough. I'm going to snap this to every area. And you probably don't know how that's happening. I have vertex and center on. Center is not on by default, I do not believe. And I'm going to give this a name called what? Control object, so I'll call it a C TRL1. So when I duplicate this, I'm going to add a constraint to the object, and it's going to be a full transform. I won't pick the target yet. I just want to do that first because I'm going to duplicate these many times, so I'll have a head start at what I'm doing here. And the reason why I won't pick the target is because if I do that, it will pop it someplace else until I pick the bone, which could be anything, right? So shift, duplicate that, move it there, same thing, move it there. And the last one. Now I checked the bone. I know that I want it to be transform constrained to be 1. The head of a bone is its actual location, and that's where this is snapped to right now, so it won't change location when I pick its ultimate target, which is B1. Let's go find B1. And then C1. And of course we can just type it in. This is D1. E. This is if. Nope, that's not it. F. F1. I don't know what those 0, 0 things are. Oh, up there, okay. Right. G. And the last one is going to be H. Each one. Alright, so when the bone moves, these objects will move with it. See, they will transform with the object. And that motion will be transformed to the bone. And the rig is attached to these bones. Those bones will animate the rig rotations, you see. Now we'll deal with the bones. And we need to constrain, we need an IK on each of these bones. And you need to be in a pose mode to do it. The constraint for bones is down here. For object, it's up here. Where is that? We want the bone type, and it will be IK. And we will pick the target, which is that object. And the bone doesn't move because it's in the correct place. Let me show you what happens if it's not in the correct place. We don't want any discrepancies, so we make sure our stuff is in the correct place. We don't allow Blender to do our work for us. You see how it's lopsided here. We don't want that. Make sure this is down, sitting right where it belongs. Pose, just to be sure. Toggle the effect. Do the same thing here. And I'm going to do all these bones and come back. And the last one. Oops. Now when it animates, these should move with it. Now you can see that they're being separated from the main part of the rig, and that means that they are losing their location with respect to their parent, and that's not good. They need more distance. They need a longer fulcrum in order to deal with the motion that we're getting here. So select all the tops of these and pull them up so that they're pretty big. And we can measure one of these. Let's see, 17 meters is okay. 20 is better, I think. And there's a little flipping going on here. We can adjust that. I'm going to turn this into sticks first so I can see what's going on. That might actually make it through. It could be a little too long, so I'm going to bring them down some. This could very well be a trade-off. This one is coming out of alignment here. Not sure why it's happening. Maybe it's got the wrong target. I don't think so, but 7, right? We know that I could name these for the bone that they're attached to, and I probably should. So just to make things easier, let's keep with our usual format and rename them. And I'll go into edit. I'm going to bring these down again Is this so big? And I'm going to name these for the target. Wait a minute, where was the, where are the bone, where are the, I think these are covering the, these might be covering the, come on, actual, yeah, I should make these bigger than, alright, so I'm going to select all of these and make them bigger so they're obvious. And go into edit mode and just scale them all up so that they're outside of the bone tail. That way this bone tail isn't covering it. Now I can see that H1 is there, so I can name this H1 if I want, but I think I'll call it something more. Control H1 maybe. H1. It's not H1. Control G. Wait a minute. I don't need it. I can just say G, right? And H because I did separate them like that. So that works okay. Control F. That works. Let's see. That's B. Is it B? Yeah, because that's A. It'll be easier to find. Now let's see if just these things in the proper place, it's going to work. Maybe just pulling them down a little more was okay. Alright, so these are moving off in the space and they're not supposed to be. I'm experiencing something strange here. So improving the distance here might help. I didn't think I would have to do that. We can first start with all of them, and then we can adjust each one as required. That's not looking good. I'm not sure what's going on there. I'll have to work that out. Okay, so some of these have to be longer than the others, but I think they can all be just as long in order to absorb the rotation data required to prevent it from actually disassociating from the main rig. And these I'm going to organize a little better so I can have more control over them. So what is this? This is 6. I'm going to put 7. Is that 4? That's 4, and 5 goes up right there. Three. Two. And 1. I'm going to bring these up vertically to match the root head. I'm going to stretch these up a little bit, well, a lot actually, and I'm going to test the animation again, see if there's anything disassociated. Okay, so we have a little flipping, but I don't think it's too bad, except I think it is disassociating from the main. It is. There's a space. We can have that because that's not going to translate well into rotations. So which bone is that connected to? That's connected to. Well, it's F7, so it's B7. And let's see how we can correct that. Can I just bring these up maybe? It's moving. It's really pulling as a flip. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to adjust the bone roll in all of these just to make sure it's all the same, which means I will select everything. And of course you won't see bone roll unless you're an octahedral, probably, but I don't think there's anything wrong with the bone roll. I'm just going to do it anyway. You really should, unless you have a reason to angle the bone for like fingers, that might be a reason. And I want these further apart. Why are they together again? What happened? What did I do to these to make them? Oh, because I lifted the because I lifted this. That's right. That's why. So I'm going to separate these again. Give them some good distance. Actually, do that. Then I will select them all and deselect the last one. So, and that's how I'll progress here. And see what we have. I'm pretty certain it's still broken. Yeah, so we have this still broken. It's pushing away from the oh, why is it doing that? It's pulling on it. Why won't it pull it? Because they're in a static place. I'm gonna do a test here. Just put it right over there. See what I get. This is how I used to have it, but that's still coming away anyway. So there's no way to snap that to the bottom. It's goofy, but I can it doesn't snap to itself. That's just an unfortunate oversight for Blender. It's a dumb. What I can do though is extrude this, right? Snap this piece to the extruded portion and then delete the extrusion. I'm going to just extend this up and see what I get. I actually fixed this off video. And so I came back to show how to do it, and nope. just make that a little half height. Yeah, that's not working. So the source has to be in these. Either they're too long or they're too short. Alright, so they were too short for this motion. And I want to see what happens when I shorten these, actually. Put these to the same height as this and make them very short. So that doesn't interfere with it. That's fine. So I'm going to make them even shorter, just to get an idea of my extreme. How far can I go? Can I make them as short as the pelvis one? They line up nice and neat. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to export this animation here along with the new mesh to show, hopefully, that it's fixed. First thing is I'll export the new mesh, because the bone locations have changed. I ought to do this. I think it's going to recognize these bones. I'm pretty sure it does. Then I choose the rig, and I will snap my proxy rig to that, and I need to choose my proxy rig for the export, the animation export. Make sure location data is disabled, and we'll go to Second Life and see what happened. Just unlink this here, and I'll delete the old mesh, upload the new. Yeah, I don't think that's a problem, actually. It's just that this is the first time doing 30 bones. I didn't actually do 30 bones before. It was like 13, 16, something like that. I'll link this, put in my new animation, and shift click drag so that a clean copy is left behind. And that doesn't do it justice. This is not doing what we want it to do. Let's go figure it out. I think maybe I didn't upload my new animation. I'm not sure, because it's giving me the same results. Yeah, okay, it was the animation. So that's what we get when we use our fulcrums, as long as they don't separate from the main rig.